Welcome, everybody, to Freelance Writing Direct. I'm your host, Estelle Erasmus, the author of Writing That Gets Noticed, Find Your Voice, Become a Better Storyteller, Get Published, and it is now a course at NYU and an elective towards the journalism certificate. Every week, I speak with novelists, with authors, with writers of every niche to talk about their tips, their tricks, their strategies, and how the sauce is made, including creative advice. I'll talk about essays and articles and share my own experience from 3 decades of publishing. So join me every week and grow your business and build your craft with Freelance Writing Direct. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. And follow along on Substack, where I share special clips for subscribers only at estelleserasmus.substack.com. Hi, this is Estelle Erasmus of Freelance Writing Direct, the author of Writing That Gets Noticed, Find Your Voice, Become a Better Storyteller, Get Published. And I'm doing a solo episode today because there is a lot going on in our industry. Today, it appears that Vice, the online publication, is letting a lot of people go. There has been a veritable bloodbath in the industry as sites are shutting down. The Washington Post set up a buyout for longtime editors, including the wonderful Amy Joyce, who I wrote almost a dozen articles with when she was editor of the On Parenting section. And my piece that went viral, My Child Is Out of Control, that was back in 2015, followed up the next year by My Child Is Still Out of Control, and that set off a whole slew of other parenting writing assignments. So there's been a big sea change in the industry. And as somebody who's been in publishing for 3 decades, starting out in Woman's World magazine back when print was king, I saw print go by the wayside. Right now, it's really just niche publications that are staying alive, including my beloved Writer's Digest, where I write and teach for and did the All About the Pitch column for 2 years. But there are publications that are shutting down if they're general interest publications because of streaming, because of online, because of TikTok. People are not consuming content in the way they did before, and advertisers are not paying in the way that they did before. So that is part of the big change in the industry. And I was there when print started dying out. I saw it when it was king. Then I saw when sites popped up like iVillage and music.com, all sites that I wrote for. And the change started to move into that. So that was another big transition. And all of a sudden, everybody had an online aspect of what they were working on. And where I thought, I always say something to my students and to my family and to my daughter, who's a teenager now, she's 14, you never know when your bad luck's your good luck. And that's really true, because although I worked for Woman's World in the beauty department, and I had a lot of tasks and responsibility, when I became a senior editor at American Woman magazine and later an editor-in-chief, not much later, like maybe a year later, an editor-in-chief at Woman's Own, and continued to be an editor-in-chief at magazines up till the early aughts, I was operating as if I was working with an online publication, because in a large print publication, you have a very narrow range of responsibilities. If you're working for a smaller staffed publication, which is what American Woman was and Woman's Own, you did everything from setting up the photo shoots, to working with the art director, to curating the content, to writing the cover lines, to writing the copy, to the decks, to editing all the material, to even writing columns of your own. I had many columns: a woman talk column, a beauty column, lifestyle, single living column, all different columns. And that was part of being with these small publications. Okay, so that was king. And then social media happened, right? And so I started learning social media when I came up with blogging, and I was in Listen to Your Mother. And so now everybody, the early people who knew about social media, when I talk about social media, Facebook, Twitter, there was no Instagram at the time. Those were the bloggers. Those were the people who were not real established writers, but they were the first ones to do social media. So as somebody who'd been in publishing and writing and then pivoted into medical education when I was dealing with infertility, I then saw how social media changed the climate. And soon enough, editors were looking to social media for their inspiration. And editors were going to Twitter in throngs. And that was a great place to find editors and calls for editors. And now editors, they're still on Twitter or X, but they're trying other things as well. Some of them are going to Threads, some of them are doing Discord, some of them are going to Blue Sky. There's still a fair amount on Twitter, but I would say this is something to watch. This is something that's changing. Now, TikTok has made a huge transition. I think it was maybe a year ago when I was speaking at ASJA, the American Society of Journalists and Authors conference, I mentioned that editors were looking to TikTok and including TikTok influencers in their stories to show credibility that something is an important subject. And TikTok is becoming stronger. Now they are owned by people from China. And I think that is a problem with the American government. And so I don't know how long TikTok will be around, but for now I'm kind of down with it. I really just watch the feeds that I want to watch. And the way you do that is, if you like animal feeds, fine, comment on those. If you don't want to see the hate-filled feeds, and they are there in abundance, don't comment on them. Don't even like them. And so that's the way that you can keep getting the algorithm the way you want it. So I am on TikTok at Estelle Erasmus, and I'm experimenting with ways of sharing my podcast. I now have that valued number, 1,000 followers. And so because of that, I can go live, and I'm debating how I want to do that. And I want to segue again to the changes in the industry. This is not going away, okay? There will be more sites shutting down. I think I couldn't find it. I was looking for a Facebook post that I'd done a couple of months ago that might have alarmed some people, but it was really what I was observing. And I said, this was not the end. There is a sea change happening in the industry because of all the other ways that people can get information now. The advertisers are not willing to pay, especially for online. And the subscription models don't seem to be working out. Remember, when a lot of online publications went to subscription models, well, people just didn't want to pay it. They still don't want to pay it. And the reason is they can Google, they can find ways, they can even look on different forms of more up-to-date AI that's not 2 years ago, like ChatGPT, and they can find information that way. And so they're not necessarily going to go to the websites. There are also sources that kind of scrape that information and make it free for people, because then they get the clicks. So that's another reason. So we will be seeing that. And my advice to writers, to journalists, is to find other ways to work with your writing, whether that's content writing, which still pays very highly at the moment, whether it's ghostwriting, whether it's writing white papers, whether it's positioning yourself for higher and higher publications, like how I teach my students at NYU and Writer's Digest and in my book, Writing That Gets Noticed. You have to make a name for yourself in this day and age. And you do that by showing your voice on the page. And even if you have a book, I mean, back in the 90s, there were so many people who had books and they got big, huge book deals. Yes, that's still happening, but it's different. They used to have a huge support system within the publisher. And while some publishers are great and they have great publicity teams, like I was working with the director of publicity for New World Library for my book, but there's still, you have to do a lot of your own legwork. You have to build your communities. And that's why, people are kind of really down on Facebook, and I'm not so down on Facebook. I want to talk to you a little bit about social media. Facebook can still be a great place if you find a community that has a group, because you can share information. You don't even have to participate all the time. You can just take in the information. That's okay. And you don't even have to say, click like, following. All you have to do are the 3 little dots at the top of the post, and you click on those dots and it says, get notifications on this post. And there you go. Nobody even needs to know that you're watching the post if you don't want them to. LinkedIn has been changing lately. LinkedIn is a little bit more of that water cooler fountain that people are kind of throwing whatever at to see if it'll stick, even though it's supposed to be a very professional site. I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm sharing links there occasionally. And for those of you who say that I have a strong social media game, I beg to differ. I post when I want to. I don't think too much about it. Maybe I post on the weekend if I have some time, when some people are out of the house, when my daughter's doing something, but I'm not really having a schedule. I don't use Hootsuite or any of those other things. And I think my attitude might be the way to go, because I've seen people who are hiring these companies that are doing all their posting for them. And while it's exciting in the beginning, it starts being like, okay, my daughter, who is a teenager, has a term that she uses, and right or wrong, this is just a term that teenagers are using everywhere for girls who are very like, look at me, to the guys. And so I feel like these very elaborate social media posts are a little bit like, pick me. So a little bit can go a longer way, and I'm still keeping an eye on it. One thing I want to do, and I advise everyone to do, is maybe take a quick course in Canva to see how that works for you. And I want to do that. And there are free courses. Actually, one of my recent guests on Freelance Writing Direct, Jennifer Chen, who wrote Artifacts of an Ex, told me that she took a free Instagram course and upped her Instagram game. Now, I want to talk about Instagram a little bit. I think Instagram, because they're connected with Facebook, it's the same company. You can share something on Instagram and it'll automatically, if you click that in the settings, it'll automatically be shared to either your personal or your professional Facebook page. I have both. My personal is kind of locked down, so if I don't know you, I'm really not accepting you. My professional page is estelle.sobel, Sobel.erasmus. I also use that page, and that's where some of my Instagram posts go. So stories is good for that instant kind of, you want to show that you're somewhere in the moment, maybe you're at a conference or maybe you're speaking somewhere. And that's like a quick, because it goes away after 24 hours, but you can also highlight it and have it stay longer if you want to do that. Posts are something that's going to stay up there. So you really want it to be something with staying power, at least for the next few months. So for that, I'll put some of my Freelance Writing Direct episodes because I don't have my own separate page for that at the moment. I don't think there's a need because I have the website. And my website is estelleerasmus.com. And if you want to get Freelance Writing Direct, it's /podcast. So for that, Instagram, you could do some posts. If you're worried about like photos, just screenshot something that you were in and then use that as your picture. It doesn't have to be as precise and as pretty as in the earlier days of the influencers with Instagram. And then with TikTok, I think TikTok is great fun. I did a TikTok with Holly Rizzuto-Palker, and we had so much fun, and we did a little play off on writing coaching. And I want to do a little bit more of that. And so I'm looking into that, and I am going to do a live at some point. So let me know what you want me to talk about live. I won't do it for a long time, but I'll do it for a short time. And the other thing is Substack. Woo! Everybody, it's kind of like a birthday for Substack. Every single day, somebody is having a new Substack. So that's great. And I follow so many of my friends and so many of the writers I know and admire. Writers have been on my program, writers that I know from traditional media. And I think Substack can have a real great use, but it has to have value. With so many coming in, you have to really stand out from the others. And how do you do that? By showing your mastery of certain elements of whatever it is that you're writing about or talking about. And for me, that's writing and my expertise in pitching and in editing based on my decades of experience in teaching. And so also sharing connections can be helpful as well. So Substack, I'm not sure. I'm kind of on the fence. I have it. I do like it. It's easy to use, but I don't know what happens if the company changes its model. Whereas I've kept my WordPress.org account, but it's really estelleerasmus.com, but it's on WordPress.org, which allows you to monetize. WordPress.com does not. Anyway, I think that's it. Write and let me know what you want me to cover in Substack. I've been covering some pitching stuff. I covered sending me your pitches. I think my next thing I'm going to do is send me the beginning of your essays, and I'll help you tweak it to make it more compelling. I'm also going to try to offer out office hours for my paid subscribers. And my paid subscribers also get these really fun and informative bonus clips that I do with most of my guests. And my guests are editors, and I have agents coming up, and publishers, and authors, and writers, freelance writers in every niche, and media experts. So follow along on iTunes, and I'm also on Spotify, but I would love for you to write a review of Freelance Writing Direct. I would love you to get my book, Writing That Gets Noticed. And let me know what you want me to cover in upcoming Substacks. Thank you. I appreciate all of you, and I want you to do your best. Bye-bye. Follow me at estelleerasmus.com on my website and on social media, which is Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, at Estelle S. Erasmus. And we're now on YouTube for Freelance Writing Direct. Follow along, and soon everyone will be reading what you're writing.